Hey guys, welcome to Cosmic Road. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got Kirsten Gillibrand is now saying there is going to be a live public hearing with David Grush. Marco Rubio is saying there are going to be more whistleblowers coming forward that actually have firsthand experience with UFOs. These are guys that may have had their hands on some UFOs. So let's talk about all this. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And since this is a live stream, if you wanted to support the channel while I'm going through it, feel free to leave a super chat. That'd be awesome. Hey, David, how's it going? Yeah, going live. Good evening, Daniel. So the first story today is Kirsten Gillibrand. Kirsten Gillibrand is working on scheduling hearings with U.A.P. whistleblower David Grush, along with our current or former government officials. Gillibrand says they'll be open to the public if Grush agrees to allow cameras in. Well, he's already allowed, in an interview with Ross Coulthard, a couple of them on camera. So I don't see why he would disagree with that. Last week, the senator announced she secured full funding for the All-Domain, Arrow, in the Senate Armed Services Committee's markup of the FY24 National Defense Authorization Act. So Arrow is fully funded. I guess that's a good thing. Is that a good thing? You let me know what you think. Gillibrand is also I guess it shows that at least Congress is committed and at least they're taking this seriously insofar as Arrow is a serious endeavor. Yeah, you let me know if you think it's a serious endeavor. Gillibrand is also pushing a measure in this year's must-pass National Defense Authorization Act in response to Grush's claim the federal government is hiding special access programs from Congress. Yeah, and those Congress people do not like stuff being kept from them. They are the purse strings of the government, right? They fund stuff. And if stuff is going on without their approval or funding, they do not like that. So, if nothing else, even if they have no interest in UFOs, they don't like stuff being kept from them. So, whatever gets them on board, right? Her proposal would bar funding for any government program that isn't directly funded by Congress. Yeah, and if it's not directly funded by Congress, where are they getting their money? I've talked before about theories and direct witnesses who think that the control group may be funded by running guns and drugs and maybe even people. Is that what's going on? Or is it all coming from the government? Do they get their money from, tech companies, aerospace companies? Because, a lot of these UFO materials seem to go through or to, Lockheed Martin and other various big companies. So, are they getting funding there? Where are they getting their money? Are the aliens giving the money? I mean, I'm firmly convinced that they're working with the beings. But, if you think that's too out there, let me know what you think. But, I wouldn't think the aliens would have to worry about money. I don't know. They need some gold. They can bring it in from some other planet, right? But yeah, she's also pushing a measure in this year's must-pass National Defense Authorization Act. Yeah, it would bar funding from any program not directly funded by Congress. So if there are special access programs out there that are somehow outside of the normal chain of command and outside the normal appropriations process, they have to divulge that to Congress. Wouldn't that be juicy? Wouldn't that be something if we actually had, people being forced to tell the truth to Congress and Congress people being given access to UFO material? Wouldn't that be insane? And if they did, would that become public? How much of that would become public? I mean, we're funding these turkeys, right? I mean, all this is possible with taxpayer dollars, outside of the drug running and whatever else they're doing. So we should have access to this. We should be privy to this stuff. Why are we not privy to this stuff? If it's not part of our national defense, what is their justification for withholding this stuff from us? And I don't see how it could be argued that it is part of national defense since they don't seem to be using it in wartime. I mean, they've been doing this for decades and decades. We lost Vietnam. So, if we had this stuff back in the 60s, as it appears that we did, why weren't we using our own UFOs? And that's according to researchers like John Keel, along with direct witnesses like a Lockheed Martin Skunk Works engineer and others. Bill Olhouse, who worked at Area 51, who says that we have had this stuff since the late 50s and 60s, that we've been able to fly our own UFOs. So if we're not using it in war, and again, we wouldn't have lost Vietnam if we were using this stuff. Iraq wouldn't have been such a huge cluster F if we could just go and annihilate our enemies with UFOs. So if we're not using it for national defense, we have no reason to withhold this stuff from the public. I don't get it. I don't know what the rationale is for continuing to withhold this material from us. Daniel says this is about to break wide open. It kind of looks like that, doesn't it, man? I hope you're right. UFO ARC, if the money they get from tax, why can't we have a refund? Yeah, right? Yeah, they're not telling us the truth. Just give us refund. That's our money. Creative accounting, David says. You really got to wonder why they sat on the whistleblower's testimony for so long, but now start acting since Grush came forward publicly. Yeah, that's right. If Grush hadn't been willing to come forward publicly and interview with Ross Coulthart, would they be talking about this at all? If Lou Elizondo, if he hadn't come forward, would any of this be going on? I don't think so. I don't think you could make a compelling argument that any of this would be possible without whistleblowers like Lou and David. And I can't wait to see who else comes forward next. Drug running for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's on the table. That is what witnesses have said or, theorized based on what they have seen. LD Drums says, I can almost hear the cracking of the dam. Man, I hope so. It's been too long, man. UFO ARC says, I think drug running makes sense. Yeah, it does. I mean, that's a lot of money that you can do surreptitiously. And they certainly have the means and, the motivation to do it. And that's what witnesses have said that seems to be the case. So, that seems fantastic to be running drugs with UFOs, drugs in arms. And they are using the actual craft to do this, at least according to that witness in the Stephen Greer UFO summit a couple of weeks ago, who was in Indonesia. And he saw weapons and potentially people being loaded aboard a UFO by humans. And the people that were there, the goons of the control group or whoever they were, actually debated on whether or not to shoot the witness and his compatriot soldiers. They obviously didn't. Does that throw his testimony into doubt that he's alive? I don't know. You tell me. I think drug running makes sense. Looking forward to the open hearings. Remember, a couple trillion went missing. Yeah, that's right. That's right. They did. Always Up says, Jack, these days you must feel like you are just drowning in all the juice. Yeah, I do, man. It's every week there's some big thing dropping. I love it. I can't get enough. I just think it's awesome. I think we're reaching a tipping point. I was talking to my mom and my aunt and one of their friends the other day, trying to explain some of this stuff to them. And they're all very, square people. They're not interested in UFOs. I guess I should say that. Never had any interest or any, belief in it particularly. But after I was explaining how the Senate is now demanding UFO material be turned over to Arrow, and this is actually the government initiating this activity and potentially access to actual UFOs. And they have kind of changed their thinking on that. They're like, oh, well, it can't be argued anymore, can it? And I'm like, no, they can't. Not if you're paying attention. However, not everybody's paying attention, and the Pentagon is still denying this. In fact, I may get to that Yeah, let's see if I can find that. If I have that queued up or not. I don't know if I have that queued up. But yeah, the Pentagon is still denying this stuff. But okay, yeah, let's just go to what it says about the Rubio. Asked June 26 about allegations of secret UFO retrieval and reverse engineering programs, Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Marco Rubio made several stunning statements. In an exclusive interview, Rubio told News Nation Washington correspondent Joe Khalil that multiple individuals with very high clearances and high positions within our government have come forward to share firsthand UFO related claims beyond the realm of what the Senate Intelligence Committee has ever dealt with. We're getting firsthand witnesses to UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering. Who are these people going to be? Are we talking about modern day Bob Lazars? Could Bob Lazar potentially be a whistleblower? I don't know. I know Chris Mellon isn't sold on Bob Lazar, and many other people aren't, but many people are. I personally lean in the pro Bob camp, but I respect all views. Rubio's comments provide context for a bipartisan provision adopted unanimously by the Senate Intelligence Committee, which would immediately halt funding for any secret government or contractor efforts to retrieve and reverse engineer craft of non Earth or exotic origin. This extraordinary language, added to the Senate version of the Intelligence Authorization Bill, mirrors and adds significant credibility to a whistleblower's recent stunning allegations that a clandestine, decades long effort to recover, analyze, and exploit objects of non human origin has been operating illegally without congressional oversight. And that'll be really interesting if this legislation does go forward. Will they keep the term non-human? Because that is actually in the legislation as it stands right now in the Senate. It hasn't passed through the House yet. When Arrow was created, the original language actually did say non-human, but it was modified later, and they got rid of that. So will they get rid of this non-human term? Because if Congress is using the term non-human in legislation that gets passed and signed into law, that's disclosure. Boom, that's disclosure. So they may want to get rid of that language just for that reason. That'd be a shame. That'd be a damn shame. I would love open acknowledgement of non-human vehicles. That'd be amazing. Additionally, the bill instructs individuals with knowledge of such activities to disclose all relevant information and grants legal immunity if information is reported appropriately within a defined time frame. Moreover, nearly 20 pages of the legislation appear to directly address recent events by enhancing a raft of legal protections for whistleblowers, while also permitting such individuals to contact Congress directly. That's amazing. That's just totally amazing. And if you're just joining us, thank you for coming to Cosmic Road. I'm Jack. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. We're discussing recent events and UFO disclosure. Kirsten Gillibrand has announced that there is going to be an open hearing with David Grush, and if he allows it, there will be video cameras there recording the proceedings. And there better be. There better be. And they better allow some of the proof that he has said to have provided to Congress to be showcased publicly. The public needs to see at least whatever proof they are allowed to show. And again, if it's not for national security reasons, they have no legitimate reason to withhold this from the public. So what do you think? Oh, and if you want to support Cosmic Road, please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell. You don't want to miss a thing. And please consider supporting the channel by leaving a super chat. Let's see. What are you guys saying? Daniel says it was said as much as 22 trillion has been unaccounted for. Wow, $22 trillion. But I think some of that was estimated with the revenue from drug and human trafficking. Well, it could be. It could be. UFO, I don't know where the control group is getting their money, but they obviously have their methods. UFO ARC says, if I was rich, I'd take out a full page advert highlighting this situation, right? Daniel says Bob Lazar is a first-hand witness. I'm pro Bob. I do. I think he is a truth teller, and he saw some stuff. I do think that it's likely because he talks about being forced to drink this pine-scented drink when he first started there and being forced to undergo hypnosis. And that may have made it more easy for him to have false memories implanted. Now, I don't think the false memories were of the wild stuff. Indeed, I think the opposite. I think that he probably has some memories of interacting with beings and some of the more exotic stuff that may have been wiped from him. And maybe that process made it easier to do so because he has at least one conscious memory of interacting with a being. This is actually a recovered memory that he had years later as he was just walking into a hotel room. And all of a sudden, he remembers he was in this hospital at, S4. And, he was interacting with this being telepathically behind a curtain. And so, and he has at least one other memory of seeing a little being in a room and some people talking to it. And later he retracted that and said, hey, maybe it was a dummy or something. I don't think it was a dummy. I don't think that makes any sense. I think he probably worked with some beings there, and that's what the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works engineer was saying back. His fellow engineers were saying back in the 60s that they were working with beings, helping humans to develop a training device so that we could learn how to fly our own UFOs. And that lines up pretty well with the Bill Olhouse story as well. So El Drum says, now wouldn't it be cool if Lazar appears out of nothing in the upcoming hearings? Man, if Bob Lazar testified in front of Congress, that would rock. That would be awesome. Daniel says he definitely should and drop the mic. You right? That would be epic. Yeah, it sure would, man. David says Lazar had no reason to lie and never sought profit or fame. All it did was screw with his life. Absolutely. And when he was actually brought to court and was forced to recount some of this stuff, and he had every reason to ditch that story and go with a more palatable story. Otherwise, he would have been faced with perjury or what have you. He stuck to his story, even under the hot grill of going to court to be tried criminally. I think that was in regards to his prostitution scandal. If you're familiar with that scandal, if you're familiar with that. Daniel says everyone who is still living should be put on the record that has firsthand knowledge. Absolutely. Just like they were getting all those World War II vets on record to get their stories because they were, not going to be with us forever. Well, we definitely need to get everybody on record talking about that. UFO Arc says, Jack, you should be the public face of disclosure. Well, thank you very much, UFO Jack. I appreciate that very much. Oh, if you've read any of my books, I appreciate that. It's awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, if you are a reader of science fiction or fantasy, there's a link to my books below. There's a couple of them in the back there. That would be another way to support the channel. And if I don't mind saying so, UFOs right, and they're not bad. So you might enjoy it. But every writer thinks they're the best. Where did she announce that? Let's see. I've several people have sent me that link. Let's see who I am getting this from. Well, the article I just read is from Matt Laszlo at askapool.com, which I've never heard of. So you tell me if that's a legit site or not. But that seems to be an authentic story. So, but it's always good to check the provenance of these things. So, good for you. And if you can find a source on that, a different source that's more of a mainstream source, please let me know and put it in the comments. Edward says he's familiar with that. Okay. You're Edward. You're familiar with that site. Okay. Very good. Lazar is a dog. Okay. All right. Cable Guy says UFO Arc tracing difficulties, and if money has been spent on goods and services, it has lost its form. Okay, if goods. Okay, I'm trying to follow that. And Cable Guy says, I'm willing to take the goods. Has the refund. Okay, sounds good. Let's see. I think that UFO disclosure is so exciting. I don't know. I'm torn though, because you know, the new legislation says that this material, UFO material, first of all, they're going to defund the special access programs if they're not revealed. They're giving the participants in these special access programs immunity for coming forward, which is awesome. And they're saying that all the UFO material in these reverse engineering and recovery programs should be made available to Arrow. Maybe not brought to Arrow, but their inventory and so on. What they have should be made available to Arrow, and Arrow should get access to this stuff within, I think, 6 months. Of course, it wouldn't be signed into law for another 6 months, so we're looking at a year. However, here's the catch, guys. Here's the major catch. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who I'm a big fan of, has said publicly in the hearing with Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Ernst, neither of whom pushed back on anything he said, even when he said there's no evidence of exotic craft or craft that could defy the known laws of physics. So even when he was blatantly lying, or at least saying the truth in such a way that it could say an untruth, if you will. He said publicly in that hearing that if he did get any evidence of ETs, that he would send that to NASA or a similar body. So NASA, according to research I've shared with you and research I'm sure that you have done yourself, has been hiding this stuff forever. They've been hiding the stuff forever. They've been scrubbing stuff out of their videos, airbrushing it out of photos, telling astronauts to shut up about it, and others as well. So Sean Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, wants to get all this stuff to NASA, who's cover up central. And, that seems to be part of their charter is to cover it up. I don't know what NASA does. I mean, is it all a smokescreen? I guess there is a core group or a small group that is managing the cover up and the UFO program, whatever they're actually doing. And then the rest of it is a sincere effort with sincere actors that are actually interested in exploration and science. But obviously that material would go to that core group that must be part of the control group and the control apparatus, the cover up. So what is the point of sending anything to NASA or any similar bodies? I really appreciate that legislation, but I wonder if it's lip service. I wonder if the Congress people that wrote that legislation knew that it would only go to NASA to die, if indeed Sean Kirkpatrick and his agenda continue. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Because if Kirkpatrick is allowed access to UFO material, and if he sends it to NASA, as he said he was going to do, what do you think would happen? What do you think would be the result of that? Do you think that would further disclosure, or would that further the cover up? I really want to know your thoughts on that. Let's see. Cable Guy says, how do you know whether disclosure has been compromised by non-human intelligence or AI? Well, I don't know. By compromise, can you explain a little bit by what you mean? Do you mean that there's some disinformation among the truth, or that it's all being a controlled narrative by some party? Laszlo is legit. Bob Lazar, yeah, or is that a different Laszlo? Is that the guy that wrote that article? Xavier says, hey, Cosmic Road, love the channel. Thank you, Xavier. Are you looking for a designer or an editor free of charge? I really enjoy your shows. Thank you, man. I probably could use a designer and an editor. I don't know what is involved in that, but I would love to make my videos more professional. And if they could be edited and so on, and have nice like graphics or thumbnails, that is definitely something that I would be interested in exploring. So maybe you can send me an email and let me know your thoughts on that. Cable Guy, and email is mrchannel@gmail.com. It should be in the description or in the site, the channel description. Cable Guy says Grush has got the names of individuals only can be revealed in a public hearing, contrasted from the latest bill voluntary process. How effective is this? Yeah. Okay, so he's got the names of the individuals, and he also has the names of the programs, and apparently at least one or more locations of these programs, like the actual physical locations. Before David Grush came out publicly, James Fox was talking about this, and he was saying that, yeah, they've got the locations of these programs, and, if people have the right clearances, they could be taken directly to these locations where the UFOs are and where the reverse engineering efforts are. So I assume that James Fox was talking about David Grush because he was talking about a big whistleblower, a UFO whistleblower that was rattling Congress and who had just testified to Congress. So that had to be David Grush, right? However, since Marco Rubio is now saying there are other whistleblowers coming forward to talk about this very soon that have more direct access to these programs than David Grush did. He's getting all this stuff secondhand, but there are firsthand witnesses coming forward. Did James Fox know about them? And is he talking about them, or is he talking about David Grush? I would love to know the answer to that. What do you guys think? Kirkpatrick told the owner of Skinwalker Ranch that he didn't need to be convinced about UFOs. That's right. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I've talked about this before. What does Kirkpatrick know? He used to work for what's his name, Inman, who was oh my God, I'm doing this off the cuff. I forgot his position, but was he the director of the NSA or the something like that? He was a bigwig, and he is admitted on a taped conversation decades ago with a NASA technician who was taping their conversation that he was running the UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. And he denied this years later, but he's on tape saying this. And again, that was secretly without his knowledge. But yeah, so and Sean Kirkpatrick worked under him. I don't know what capacity. I'm sure he had many employees. But it is worth noting that Sean Kirkpatrick is apparently extremely knowledgeable about UFOs. Brandon Fugel, like you were saying, said that Kirkpatrick was, he wanted to brief Kirkpatrick about UFOs, talking about the Skinwalker Ranch. Kirkpatrick didn't need to be briefed about UFOs. He knew all about it. He said, save your breath. I know all this. I've got this. Gary Nolan has said that Sean Kirkpatrick knows more about UFOs than anybody. And Gary Nolan probably knows a few people that know about UFOs. Sean Kirkpatrick knows more than anybody. He worked for a guy who admitted on tape that he reverse engineered UFO technology. And now Sean Kirkpatrick is the director of AARO, which is continuing the UFO cover up. So I am fairly convinced that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is part of the cover up, not an unwitting pawn, but a witting agent of the cover up. So that is my personal belief, but I would love your own thoughts on that. As someone has Kirkpatrick by the balls. Maybe they've got him by the balls. Maybe he's been coerced, but I don't think so. I think he's a willing part of this, and he has been all along. And I did an episode a month or two ago about Kirkpatrick's background and his credentials, and he's been in on the secrety, sciencey stuff since his inception in the government, and since he began his career. Yeah. So I think that Kirkpatrick is in on this. He is not a pawn of the cover up. He is a bishop or a knight. I firmly believe that. But at least a rook. I mean, he's up there. LD Drum says hopefully Kirkpatrick will be out of AARO. Yeah, man, that's my dearest wish. But if he does leave AARO, will he simply be replaced by a Kirkpatrick clone? Because remember, Kirkpatrick is simply replacing Bray. I think that's because there's Bray and Moultrie. Moultrie is still in the picture, but Bray is not. And I think Kirkpatrick, and they were just, the same ilk as Kirkpatrick, blatantly lying to Congress about UFOs and obfuscating and suppressing the truth. The best video they could show Congress was this really weak, very short little UFO video. And meanwhile, the real video they showed of the glowing green pyramid, they attempted to debunk or they did in Congress. They said this is a bouquet effect of the lens. They got that information from Mick West. Their chief scientist, Dr. Travis Taylor, who would have been making the determination on whether that glowing green pyramid was a bouquet effect of the lens, he made a determination that it was a genuinely anomalous object, and he has gone on record publicly saying that, and he has even doubled down on that more than once, saying it was not a bouquet effect of the lens. He does not know where Bray and Moultrie got that information, that narrative, I should say. But yeah, they got that narrative from Mick West, and they did that because they wanted that story to go away. They wanted to kill that story. They didn't want anybody asking about giant pyramids flying over U.S. warships. And of course, they wanted to probably hurt, Jeremy Corbell, who is the one that released that, probably through Chris Mellon. And that's the scuttlebutt, is that he was getting a lot of those videos from Chris Mellon from briefings. It was not classified. It was legal, but it was stuff that was not used for various briefings. And Chris Mellon had this material and shared it with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. Anyway, let's see. What are you guys saying? The reason Grush came forward was because Congress was dragging his feet and he felt threatened. Yeah, no, absolutely. He did feel threatened and he did want to come forward. At least that's my understanding. And he was hoping, like Bob Lazar did, that if he came forward, that he would be safer. And, I think it probably helped, although it hasn't stopped the retaliation. It hasn't stopped the pushback. I think it was just like a week or two ago that his home got broken into. And so, yeah, if you're just joining me, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe. If you want to support the channel, please consider leaving a super chat. That will motivate me to keep on going. If you leave me super chats, I will keep on going. I take bribes. I do. But it's not about the money, but it is about motivating me and knowing that, there is an audience and there's people interested in this stuff. And so I appreciate it. Although money's good too. I'm a capitalist. I'll admit it. Let's see. Cut all funding to aerospace contractors until they cough up the goods. RMAC, crazy how Kirkpatrick. Yeah, I know, right? That would be great if we could cut funding to the aerospace companies. Lockheed Martin, you're not getting another penny until you pony up with the UFOs. We know you've got them. We know you've got the ARVs, the alien reproduction vehicles. That's the term that Mark McClandis used and coined, as far as I know, although he may have been getting that from somebody else. Let me know, guys, if you know the answer to that. Did Mark McClandis coin the term ARV, or did he get that from somebody? Let's see. Grush said it's insane if Kirkpatrick doesn't see the same stuff he did. Black Trump said, I love that name. Cut the black budget to zero and watch the fur fly. Right? I love it. Attacking the black budget stuff. I mean, what a brilliant maneuver by Congress to go after the special access programs and pinch off their funding. Will they be able to find the special access programs to pinch off, though? Because I'm sure this stuff is hidden away pretty well. Thank you very much, Black Trump. I appreciate that. Awesome. Because I'm sure this stuff is, hidden away inside a Black Trump, inside a special access program. There's probably another special access program, and then another and another. I'm sure this has been hidden very well for a long time. And it may be in a very innocuous special access program. It's not going to be in the secret, Black Ops, airplane program. It's going to be in the, how to build a better plunger program. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see if they can get this stuff or not. Let's see. Cable Guy says Arrow should be suspended for their active role in manipulation pending hearing. Right. right? They absolutely should. I mean, Sean Kirkpatrick has done nothing but lie since he has taken over. Well, I say taken over. He's been the only head of Arrow, but since he took over that role from Bray, who was the head of the U.A.P task force, yeah, he's done. I mean, all he's done is, well, obviously the U.A.P hearing, which was nothing but lies when he said, what objects? We don't have any objects. There's no stinking objects. There's no objects that can defy the known laws of physics. Get out of here. You're crazy. And he wrote that, he co-wrote the paper with Avi Loeb, which, I have mad respect for Avi Loeb. I'm so excited that mainstream science is getting aboard the UFO train. I just think that's enormously exciting. Avi, of course, approaches it all in a more conventional science, lens. That's how he looks at it, and I totally get that. But in that paper, they advanced the narrative that all of these objects that we're seeing could simply be drones from a single mothership, totally discounting the countless experiencers who have interacted with these beings, as well as the other, all the stories out there. They're incredible stories. I've got one of my own. Not interacting with a being, but seeing a UFO that was genuinely an anomalous craft. Behaving in a way that a nuts and bolts craft not connected to my consciousness would not do. And so these things are weird. And in that paper, they try to pass it all off as a bunch of drones released from a single mothership. I think that was Sean Kirkpatrick using Avi Loeb and his, veneer of respectability to advance a certain narrative, saying, "Oh, there's no beings here. There's no abductions. It's all very mainstream. If anything is going on, it's just some drones, observing us. Nothing to worry about, folks. Go about your business." So that's my take on that paper that Sean Kirkpatrick wrote with Avi Loeb. So he has done nothing but lie. And it makes perfect sense since as I've said, I firmly believe that he is an agent of the cover-up of the control group. Let's see. Snow Eater says a giant pyramid was seen over USSR in the 80s. There was a video by George Knapp that he smuggled from Russia. I've seen some of George Knapp's Russia stuff. I've heard him talk about it and seen some of his interviews. I haven't seen the giant pyramid though. If you have a link to that, I would love to see it. But yeah, I mean, definitely, if there was one giant pyramid floating in the sky over U.S. warships and allowing themselves to be filmed and caught on other sensors, there's definitely other giant pyramids floating around. So, I love it. I don't know if I want to see a giant floating pyramid. I think I do. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I don't want to get abducted. I'm not. Yeah, listen to people like Whitley Strieber describe their abductions. It sounds horrific. I was just listening to his interview with Weaponized with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, and of course I've read some of Whitley's books and I've seen his interviews and his podcast many times. I'm a big fan of Whitley Strieber, and I've heard him recount his stories many times. But he does use in this interview, he uses the R word to describe his unpleasant violation, what is probably going to be an uncomfortable amount of times for a lot of viewers. And he's not alone. Many people have described similar contacts. And so yeah, I'm not into that, man. And I shouldn't say that jokingly, because that it is very traumatic, and that is one thing that we need to address with the phenomenon when we do have open contact, which I hope will be in the relatively near future. Is, was that necessary? Is there some redress that we can make to those traumas that were inflicted on people by these abduction experiences? And if so, what could that be? And I think those are the questions that I would like to see discussed in mainstream ufology. Not are craft real or not, but what happens after disclosure? I because we are going to live in a post-disclosure world, hopefully in the relatively near future, and hopefully that will help us advance our relationship, if you will, with the phenomenon, and that could be for the betterment of humanity. That could be, physically, with our health. They could have cures for diseases, sure. They could have free energy. We pretty certain that they have 0 point energy or the like that can get rid of our energy industry essentially, and help us stop polluting the planet, which they seem to be very keen on. That is probably the main thing they talk to abductees about and contactees about, is you guys need to stop polluting the planet. Now, they may be saying that for selfish motives because they want to take over the planet and they're tired of us polluting it. But, I'm willing to say they've got a point. I hope that's not political. I just think that is from a completely non political point. We could probably do better. But yeah, let's see. Why nothing on MSN about this? Exactly. That is a great question. Why is mainstream news not covering this? Fox is actually covering this more than anybody, probably because of the influence of Tucker Carlson, who is now gone. And I love it. On the first episode of his new show on Twitter, he talked about David Grush. Boom, episode 1, talking about David Grush. So he's keeping up the good fight, and that episode got a lot of views, but it needs to be on mainstream media. Mainstream media needs to be talking about this. Where is MSM? Really? How deep in the pocket of the control group are they? I mean, we know they've been, the control group has been controlling the media for many, many decades. And there's been whistleblowers that have come forward talking about how they had embedded people in newsrooms around the world, around the country anyway, reporters that would work for them. And that when there was a UFO story coming up, they would alert them, and pressure would be applied where it was needed to obfuscate or suppress that story, say it in such a way that it aligned with the control group's narratives. So I have no doubt at all that they've been doing that, and in the mainstream news as well on TV. So where is MSN? I think it's a great question. Where is Dr. Stephen Greer on these hearings? That's a good question, because he has brief precedence on UFO lore before. He has. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was, because he claims credit, to clarify. He has very recently claimed credit for being instrumental in the behind the scenes goings on in Washington, D.C. that are happening right now. But he says a lot of stuff. Stephen Greer says a lot of things, like being offered $2 billion to stop talking about UFOs. Is that true? I don't think so. But if you think that's true, if you're a supporter of Stephen Greer, let me know in the comments below. I think he has actually done a lot of good. I'm willing to look at Stephen Greer in a nuanced perspective. I think he's done a lot of harm, spread toxicity and disinformation. For example, the narrative that there are no alien abductions and that it's all my labs. But he has also done a lot of good. His UFO summits, as well as advancing the idea of human-initiated contact with the phenomenon. I think that's huge. I think that's important. I think that CE5 could be the key to it all. I really firmly believe that. If we can get more people interacting directly with the phenomenon, we won't need the government. And in fact, I don't know if we're going to have real disclosure, like full disclosure, until the beings are ready for us to have it. So we're going to get some tidbits from the government. I do believe that. And we may even get language in some of this legislation that uses the word non-human. I hope that happens. But real full disclosure with UFOs flying around and interacting with us is not going to happen until the UFOs want it to happen. Assuming it's a real UFO and not a false flag piloted by the control group. But I think that if we had open contact, if millions and millions of people had open contact with the phenomenon and positive interactions with the phenomenon, elevating our consciousness and spreading that throughout the population, I think that we would get to disclosure a lot quicker. The phenomenon would feel comfortable with interacting with us and with revealing themselves in a big way. That's just me. Let me know your thoughts. And if you're just joining me, this is Jack Connor with Cosmic Road talking about UFOs with some great guys. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you're so moved, if you want to support the channel, please consider leaving a super chat. It keeps me motivated to keep going, and I would appreciate it. Let's see. Tony Roberts says, about Stephen Greer. Cable Guy says, I don't know what that is. Those are all, those are like Twitter profiles. Okay. People to follow. Okay. Yeah. David Wartsky and UFO Arc, all good people to follow. Absolutely. UFO Arc says Black Trump for president. I'm not going to comment. Rumor has it the committee knows where all the bodies are. They're done. That's right. David Grush is talking about bodies. He says, we've got the bodies. And, he has delivered proof of his experiences to Congress. Surely among that proof is the locations of these programs, the names of people working there, and maybe even the locations of the bodies. Now, I think it goes beyond bodies. I think we're working with live beings, and we have been for a long time. But, it's going to start off baby steps. We're going to get crash retrievals. We're going to get bodies eventually. It's going to be a while. I mean, the Pentagon is still denying this. And, even the Canadian letter, the Larry McGuire letter, that's being, I don't think they're saying it was a fake in Canada. If you're not familiar with that, it was a really great letter with a minister of parliament in Canada writing this internal letter to the defense minister, I believe. And the minister was the guy sending the letter, Larry McGuire, talking about the UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering alliance with the Five Eyes Alliance, and saying we need to get out ahead of the story, be more transparent, because when this comes out, it's going to make us look bad. Well, since then, I think it's the defense minister of Canada has gone on record saying, well, that's, he was wrong, or I forget exactly. It didn't call the a letter a fraud. Okay, let me just read it. Read what it says. Minister Anand did, and I think that's the defense minister, correct me if I'm wrong, did receive Mr. McGuire's letter and has replied to him. In her reply, Minister Anand confirmed that neither Defense Research or Development Canada nor Canadian Forces Intelligence Command are involved in any type of formal analysis of U.A.P. What about an informal one, right? In fact, she goes on, all efforts to study U.A.P. ceased in the 1960s. So whoa, that's disclosure, right? I mean, well, you could say Blue Book, right? And we had our own thing that we admitted to publicly. But yeah, so Minister Anand is saying that Canada did have a UFO program in the 1960s. That's interesting. That's an interesting admission. I would love to know what is publicly known about that Canadian program. Is it publicly known? Was that the Project Blue Book of Canada, or is that a secret program? If you're Canadian and know more about that, please let me know. She goes on, the Department of National Defense occasionally receives anecdotal reporting of unusual phenomena. However, these are only investigated when cases are identified as potential threats or events of distress. The Minister of National Defense is kept fully apprised of relevant incidents through established reporting protocols. We will continue to work closely with our allies and domestic national authorities ensure the safety of Canadians. This collaboration includes providing updates as requested by parliamentarians, for example, through parliamentary committees. In addition, D&D and the Canadian Armed Forces maintain lines of communication with NORAD. And of course, they do. They actually got NORAD to shoot down one of their balloons or whatever those mysterious objects were. So yeah, they work with NORAD and the United States Department of Defense and routinely exchange information on a number of subjects as part of our long-standing cooperation. So that's from Minister Anand to Minister Larry McGuire. It seems to admit that that letter was a genuine letter that's saying he got his facts wrong and that the UFO program in Canada ceased in the 1960s. Now, this is a very formal, very official letter, clearly, in my mind, designed to be a public statement. So, of course, the defense minister is not going to admit publicly there is an active UFO program. But of course, there must be one. The control group appears to be a multinational effort with the UFO leading the way, with the U.S. leading the way. And there's a lot of evidence for that, and I've done various videos on that. The Lance Corporal Weigand case in Brazil, a great example where he was a Marine, and he was ordered to secure a crash site with his team, thinking it was a conventional crash site. He went there, and it was a UFO. They were all shocked. He is the only one that went into the UFO and actually interacted with a dying being there. Because of this, he was arrested by the Air Force, which quickly showed up. It was the Air Force's job to secure a UFO crash. So Lance Corporal Weigand was taken back to the control group headquarters in Brazil, and he was threatened and told to be silent about it. And he saw that it was a multinational event or a multinational enterprise. People from China were there. And this is back in the 90s, before they were as technological as they are. And, nothing. Yeah, my wife is Chinese. But anyway, so yeah, what's up with that? So if China was in on it, if that story is legit, then surely Canada is also in on it as well. So this is a lie from the Defense Minister of Canada, making a public statement refuting that there is a Five Eyes alliance for UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering, which is what you would expect. But the point is that the powers that be are still denying this stuff. Even though the stuff is coming out, the Pentagon is flatly denying all of this stuff. Sean Kirkpatrick, who works for the Pentagon, firmly denying all of this stuff. Defense Minister of Canada firmly denying this stuff. And yet the leaks are coming out. The Larry McGuire letter leaked. I think he probably knew some stuff. I don't think that he got his facts wrong about the UFO program being canceled in the 60s. Clearly, we have whistleblowers coming forward currently in the U.S. So stuff is coming out. Some people will say that's all part of the plan. They give us the leaks, but they also give us the denial. And that's all orchestrated and part of a narrative or a plan of some sort. I tend not to think that's the case. To me, this seems very haphazard. But let me know your thoughts below. And if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road, talking about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, please consider leaving a super chat. It helps to keep these live streams going. So, Black Trump says, rumor has it the committee knows where the bodies are yet. Absolutely. Cable Guy, Harvard scholar who studies honesty, is accused of fabricating findings. Okay, I've got to know more about that. Hey, Martin, how's it going? Hey, Jack, great seeing you live. Quite the gang you've got here. Yeah, I got some good guys going. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate it. It's good to have you here. Black Trump says, once everything is revealed, I expect the Air Force to give us free saucer rides. Yeah, right? Right? I want to go on a saucer. No probing, but I do want to go on a saucer, man. That'd be so fun. That'd be a blast. That'd be so cool. I want to go into other dimensions. I mean, I firmly believe that some of these beings are from other dimensions, and that some of these vehicles are probably coming from there, or at least capable of going to there. So yeah, but I'd be happy for a tour around the solar system. But yeah, I want to see it all. Give me a UFO. Um, you know, take a tour. I don't even have to have my own UFO. I would be willing to take a tour. What do you guys think? Should we have a cruise ship, but it's UFO? I like that idea. I'm down with that. We know they've got the technology. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. Yeah. So a bloke says, "I've got work in the morning. Cheers, Jack. All the best, mate." Well, thank you for joining us, a bloke. Get some rest and don't work too hard. Cable guy, lots of love. Snow Eater, lots of love to you too, Cable guy. Snow Eater says, if you approach the UFO phenomenon with a pure nuts and bolts approach, you are eventually going to hit a wall. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about what Gary Nolan said. He had a really interesting quote, just one paragraph, kind of a long paragraph. From Gary Nolan, he says, one of the things I often worry about with the so-called materials that we see is you can go all the way back to Charles Fort. And if you know who Charles Fort is, he's like the original ufologist before there was a ufology or anybody even talking about UFOs, really. He wrote a book on UFOs back before there was a term for UFOs. I think this was in the late 1800s. And there's even a term coined Fortean, and there's the Fortean Times. But his word is a byword for more of an anomalous, more of a mystical, other dimensional nature, even a spiritual nature of UFOs. And if you've listened to my own, account of my own UFO experience, it definitely leans more toward the mystical and the spiritual in my particular case, which is not to say there wasn't a nuts and bolts component or that there aren't nuts and bolts component. Clearly there are craft, there are ships, there are bodies, there are physical craft, but there does seem to be more going on. So going on with what Gary Nolan said, you can go all the way back to Charles Fort and just call these things ports. A port is when a spirit makes something appear. And I've received my own report. This was given to me by my beloved stepmother. I'm not going to go into the full story, but it was an apport, and that is something that spirits do. It is very common that they leave coins and other very small objects like that. So that's what an apport is, and this is Gary Nolan, a very credible guy talking about apports. He says you can go all the way back to Charles Fort and just call these things ports, talking about the UFO material that they have received. Some of the things that appear to be left behind are no different than the things which would show up in the middle of a medium's trance, in the middle of a table and drop from the ceiling, allegedly. Of course, he's got to say allegedly. And so distinguishing something which is left behind from the other kinds of, let's say, more Fortean things is very difficult unless you have a function that you can associate with something. You can definitely say, hey, this showed up apparently out of nowhere, but ascribing a function to it under the right circumstances. Again, as I've said in many interviews, just because it has strange ratios doesn't mean it's alien. Now, if it has a strange structure or looks obviously technological, then maybe I can go a little further. Structurally, structures are usually context dependent. But anyway, he is talking about ports and how some UFO materials seem to be similar to ports. And I just think that's amazing. We have very credible people like Gary Nolan, who has said that once you begin looking into UFOs, the woo-woo is right around the corner. And that is a direct quote from Gary Nolan. So, and that has been my own experience. And that was what I have seen again and again in the research, is that there is a very strong metaphysical component to UFOs. 1/3 of all alien abductees are near-death experiencers, people who have died, been to the other side, and come back. That has to mean something. I don't know what it means. Does it mean people that are more prone to toward one experience are also more prone to another? Does it mean they like to abduct people that have certain spiritual connections? Maybe it gives your spirit a boost. It definitely does seem to. When people have near death experiences and they come back, sometimes they have abilities or sensitivities that they didn't have before. Could that play a part in anything? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I know that gets in a woo woo direction, but I feel more comfortable going in a woo woo direction with the likes of Gary Nolan saying this goes in a woo woo direction. So, I think that's where it all goes. I think that's a very interesting point, and it might even make some people feel better. Fundamentalist Christians who think this is all, demonic, or maybe that it goes against religion somehow, that it refutes religion in some way. Well, there are alien abductees that have had aliens tell them to look into the teachings of Jesus. There are other alien abductees or contactees get taught how to read auras and other mystical things. So a lot of it does go in a very positive metaphysical direction, not necessarily demonic, although there is a negative aspect. Yeah. Let's see. UFO Arc says the Canadian letter. Oh, Black Trump says, when I said bodies, I meant the programs and their location and what they're working on. Yeah, right. Yeah, I know what you meant. I think I got that right. Cable Guy says, so his association thinking it adds his credibility only makes his reputation really bad. LOL. Okay, I think I missed something there. There's a lot of comments, guys. Okay, you guys are doing awesome. Thank you. I guess I just need to read your comments and go through this because I want to get to all of your questions. The BBC has avoided this. Mark Kyle says not a peep about all of this in Australia. Yeah, no, the mainstream media has been very slow to talk about any of this. It's really disgusting. So, okay, I'm going to begin just going through your comments. And I'm going to try to get to everybody. If I miss anybody, let me know. So if you're just joining us, I'm Jack with Cosmic Road, talking about the current state of UFO disclosure. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about David Grush, Marco Rubio's latest comments about more whistleblowers coming forward that have direct involvement with the UFO reverse engineering and crash retrieval program, as well as Kirsten Gillibrand saying, apparently, that there is going to be an open hearing in the Senate with David Grush and that cameras may be allowed if he allows them in. So yeah, and if you want to support the channel, please hit like, please subscribe. And if you want to keep these live streams going, please consider leaving a super chat. That'd be super thankful. I would be super thankful. Little socialism says playing nice will get us nowhere. That's right. It's time to push. It's time to get aggressive. It's time to push. Absolutely. Black Trump says, did you do a video on those underwater sonar tracking Dave was talking about yet? No, I didn't, because I didn't have enough to add. There's such little evidence about the underwater stuff. And I didn't feel like it was long enough to make a video on. But I should have included it, and maybe I will, in a UFO news roundup. They're just the sort of thing I would love to talk about in a UFO news roundup. So great idea, and I need to track that down and do that. Cable Guys, because a great story, because so much of the UFO activity is underwater. Is that where they live? Do they use the water to come and go from underground bases that are deep within the earth? Because that is something you hear from experiencers from time to time, as they are taken or otherwise experience these vast cities underground, deep within the earth, where there are alien cities and also humans sometimes living down there. What do you guys think about that story? So could they be using the water to come and go from those underground cities? Is that something that is possible? I mean, we're living in an age of fantastic wonders. If there are alien cities underground at this moment in time, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Wouldn't be a bit surprised. I haven't seen enough evidence on that, but yeah. So, but yeah, no, absolutely. I think the water connection is key, and I probably need to do more videos about that. Uh, but they control that information very, 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 very strictly. They don't let a lot out. Apparently, the sensors that they use to record these objects are highly classified, and they don't want people. At least that's their excuse. They don't want people talking or knowing what the submarines and satellite capabilities are, sensing objects underwater. So when they get one of these fast movers underwater, it just goes in the dustbin. I mean, I'm sure they have some sort of reporting procedure where the people that need to know. But no, it's a great question, Black Trump, and I will try to talk more about that, especially if I can get more information. Cable Guy says if they give you only metamaterials and spheres, be prepared to look like Linda Moulton Howe. Yeah. Hey, I love Linda Moulton Howe. Don't diss Linda Moulton Howe. I know she goes a little woo woo, and I do think that the government feeds her disinformation. Honestly, I do think she is an unwitting tool of people that want to spread disinformation. She has been targeted by them, and some of her whistleblowers are probably, disinfo agents. Sadly, that is just my speculation. But I love Linda Moulton Howe. She's done great work, and she is one of the more open-minded people in the field of ufology. Some will say she's too open-minded. Hey, I get that. I used to think that too. I think okay, well, I'll take the nuts and bolts stuff that you're talking about. You got some good research, but all this crazy stuff that you're talking about, I'm okay. I'm turning the channel now, but now that I've experienced at least some of that craziness, I know the weird stuff is there, and it's got to be part of it, right? It's all part of one big picture. That's how I see it. I see that the UFO phenomenon is one subset of a much larger phenomenon that I call the greater phenomenon, that encompasses, Bigfoots, near-death experiences, ghosts, um, all those crazy things, higher dimensional stuff. I think it's all part of one big picture. That's just me. But that's why I appreciate Linda Moulton House, because she is willing to go there. Yeah. So Snow Eater says, Cable Guy, good point. Most likely we will get about 10% of what they know and call it disclosure. Yeah, if we get 10%. UFO Arc says BBC has avoided this. Mark says not a peep in Australia. Yeah, that's too bad. Black Trump says Greer and Mellon need to bury the hatchet and start working together. Yeah, do you mean Lou? I know that Greer and Lou have a beef. I didn't know about him and Mellon, although since Mellon is an ally of Lou, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they had a beef by association. But yeah, I would love it if Lou and Mellon, if Lou and Greer anyway could start working together. I think that'd be amazing. Greer needs to stop smearing Lou though. Lou will punch back if you smear him, and he has. And he's well within his right, I think. I would punch back too if Greer called me a grifter and a liar. Little Socialism says, but yeah, we need to, if we could not have such divisiveness in the UFO community, that'd be great. Stephen Greer has been slinging a lot of mud, calling Lou a disinfo agent, saying it's all a psyop, and that there are no alien abductions, and calling all contactees liars or delusional. I don't appreciate Greer's take on it. I'm sorry, I'm burping so much. Acid reflux. Little Socialism, treat the truth cartel just as you would a drug cartel. Go in hot with speed, surprise, and violence of action. Hearings are a waste of time. Well, that's definitely one point of view. I think that it's wonderful that we finally have Congress engaged in this, and they are having UFO hearings. And this is going to get a lot of the public engaged in this and taking this seriously for the first time. Even if nothing happens in Congress, even if they don't accomplish a damn thing, even if they don't get any UFO materials and reveal them to the public, at least they're talking about it and showing people like David Grush and presumably others that are going to be sharing their stories in a public official setting in Congress. And that is going to raise people's awareness and consciousness about this issue. And that's a good thing. So I'm really excited about the hearings, but I take your point, and you're not necessarily wrong. So, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. UFO Arc says, could we get a news media reporter that had been on the take to come forward and expose the media control? Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to see that. Cable Guy said, so it should be investigated for the justice of Christchurch residents on property loss and death. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Maybe you can let me know. Little Socialism, show me the bodies, whether the aliens agree or not. I like it. Cable Guy, if there's no such, yeah, I really want to, we need to see some aliens. They need to pony up with the aliens, the non-humans. Cable Guy, if there's no such investigation or justice, then it was a showcase of weapons capability, World Trade Fair. Oh, okay. Talking about are you talking about the 9/11? I'm not sure quite what you're talking about. The World Trade Fair. Let me know. Can you expound on that a little bit? Daniel says everyone on this side of the fence should be working together. Time to grow up and let go of the egos. Yep. That'd be nice. Snow Eater, in my opinion, this might sound crazy to you guys, but real full disclosure is when the government, start talking about human souls. Yeah. Once because that may be one reason why they're slow to talk about UFOs, is because it does get pretty woo-woo pretty fast, even according to Gary Nolan. So, and I think John Mack was also kind of on that train too. So, once you look into UFOs, it gets pretty mystical. So, once you start opening the UFO can of worms and talking about the truth of UFOs, sooner or later, you're going to get into the woo-woo stuff. And how are you going to explain that? Can it be explained? But it could be a really great thing. It could be a really great thing. If everybody, because I was an atheist. I lived all my life as an atheist until, 4 or 5 years ago. Well, I say I started looking into UFOs in 2017. So was that been six years? And I, it wasn't very long after I began my deep dive into UFOs, and I don't have a day job. I'm a novelist. Buy one of my books, link in the description. Because I don't have a day job, I was able to, and I have an obsessive personality. I was able to devote an amazing amount of time into researching UFOs and going down every rabbit hole and trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. And I quickly came across the woo-woo stuff. At first, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go down that rabbit hole, but it kept on circling back and back to the spiritual and the mystical and the other dimensional. And eventually I had to research it. And man, I found, I like to say I went down every rabbit hole, and I found rabbits down almost every hole. And there were some big damn rabbits down that hole. So, how do you talk to the public about that? But yeah, that's when I started to get spiritual, researching spirituality and learning about it, and co-founded a ghost hunting group. Learned Reiki, and around that time I started having my own experiences. Really, just amazing stuff. So I know it's real, and I know it's all connected. David says Paul Hellyer went on the record decades ago. Yep, he was labeled a crackpot, but he's been totally vindicated. Yep, I love Paul Hellyer. Daniel Gann says I agree with Greer, but not necessarily his assumption that they're all benevolent. Yeah, Greer is kind of an alien apologist. He really is. Oh, well, thank you very much, MYR. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Is that Murr? Yeah, I like that name. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Let's see. Yeah. People like you are keeping this channel going and keeping these live chats going, keeping me motivated to keep doing this. So that is super cool. Yeah, Greer has done some good work, but he does have this weird obsession with making the beings entirely benevolent, and they've never done any harm, They're not capable of doing any harm, according to Stephen Greer. Well, again, go watch that interview with Whitley Strieber, who has a very positive view of the phenomenon overall, but he's very blunt and brutal about his early experiences. And again, he uses the R word about being violated more than you probably want to hear in an interview, but it's on Weaponized. It just dropped. It's a great interview, but yeah, I mean, the beings have done some shady stuff. I don't know what the overall goal of the hybridization project is. He was part of that along with many others. Um, you know, Obviously it's to make hybrids. That's definitely a goal. What are the hybrids doing? According to the work of David Jacobs, they are infiltrating society. They're learning how to blend in, and that is what other people have said as well. But yeah, so I don't know what the overall goal of the program is, but in service to that goal, they have done some shady stuff. And Greer is totally blind to that, and he will even deny that there is a hybridization program and that there are aliens doing this stuff. And that just, to me, that's disinformation. That's Stephen Greer spreading disinformation along with toxicity. And I just, drives me nuts to see somebody so prominent with so many people following him that is spreading toxicity and disinformation. Snow Eater, yep, even Hillier mentioned the mantis beings. Did he? Did he go there? Yeah, the mantis beings are a key part of all this. According to a lot of experiencers, they're above the grays. They are directing the grays. The mantis beings are maybe running that project. Whatever the grays are doing, the mantids are running it. The hybridization project, whatever they're doing, the mantis beings seem to be toward the top of the totem pole. Simple Auto Solutions says, "Oh man, I just got here. Hey, Simple Auto Solutions, welcome to Cosmic Road." And yeah, Simple Auto Solutions said I should do a regular live show so I don't miss you. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I should do a regular live show. I should just make this a thing and do this a couple times a week. I just do it whenever I get in the mood, and that probably not the best solution. I need to be more professional. But I'm a hippy dippy artsy fartsy writer. My mind does not work in an organized or efficient way necessarily. But yeah, let's moving on. But that's a great point, and I really should force myself to be more organized and professional, and to keep a schedule. Xavier says, "Will you be watching the SCU conference this Saturday, where they will be revealing a mile-long craft on video with 2 supporting images?" I was not okay. That's new information, man. Lay it on me. What's going on with SCU? I've got to look that up now. That sounds amazing. I mean, I'll believe it when I see. Now, does this have anything to do with the new understanding of physics that is supposed to be dropped on the 29th? There's supposed to be some big news coming on the 29th that is going to advance our understanding of physics or change our understanding of physics. Is it related to that in any way? Let me know. Let's see. They will be revealing a mile-long craft. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, but I can't wait to see it if that happens. Cable Guy, I cannot agree with anything until it has been trialed and tested in a hearing. Even after, I'll take some time to digest because I want to find out. Okay, don't get it. Well, it's fair to take your time and digest everything. I mean, it took me a long time to digest this stuff and to come to the conclusion that UFOs were real, first of all, and then later alien abductions, and then the weirder stuff. I mean, once I got to Bigfoot, once I started believing in Bigfoot, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Well, what? Yeah. I haven't just gone down all the rabbit holes and found rabbits. I've become a rabbit. What the hell? But yeah, once you look at the evidence, there's evidence there. Let's see. George says it will probably lead to more questions. Perhaps the full scope is beyond understanding. Yep. David says, Cable Guy, yeah, perhaps we are beings of consciousness projected into avatars and reincarnated many times for purposes of experience and wisdom. Well, that totally is the a lot of what you get from near death experiences. I have absorbed thousands of near death experiences at this point in researching all of this, because when I came to this, I was an atheist, and it took me so much convincing to believe that we had souls and that these experiences could be possible. And I took these, I just researched, and then once I began to believe, I began to well, first of all, I wanted to know the scope of things, the shape of things. We have souls. Okay, well, where do we go? What is the shape of reality? What do the dimensions look like? And so I studied all that material, and you are bang on. That is what so many experiencers report. That's exactly what you said, David. Daniel says everything's to be by design. So little socialism, free salsa ride, prostate massage. Yeah, that is how it worked. That is what Whitley Strieber unfortunately experienced. UFO arc, an out of body experience sounds more like an out of wallet experience. I don't know what that's in reference to. Maybe the Monroe Institute. They do charge a pretty penny. I would like to go there at some point. It is expensive though, and it's not guaranteed to work though. Okay, I just lost a bunch of you. There we go. Oh, okay. Let me get to Cable Guy. Oh, the Cable Guy is Myrrh. Okay, that's the currency. I don't know what's going on. I've never seen that denomination before, MYR. When I first saw that, I thought it was a name, but now I can see your name. Okay, Cable Guy. Darn Rabbits, thank you for your work and interest. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Cable Guy. Thank you for the myrrh. What denomination is that? I don't know what that is. Yeah, Little Socialism says Hal is being manipulated. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I love Linda. I really do. But I do think she's being manipulated. George Sanqui says, what do you think of Jacques Vallée? I love Jacques. I think Jacques is on the money. I mean, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I mean, he is one of the best thinkers in ufology. And he thinks more outside the box than pretty much anybody. And he has given license to a lot of other people to think outside of the box because he is so well respected. I'm just a huge fan of Jacques and his more metaphysical take on things. Even going so far as to saying fairies and so on might be aliens, or rather, aliens are the same sorts of things as fairies and other pieces of mythology. That it's our evolving relationship with the phenomenon and how we interpret it in different time periods and how it reveals itself to us. So there does seem to be a nuts and bolts component to all of this. Like I said, there are bodies, there are ships, there is a nuts and bolts element to it, but there's also so much more to it. And I love Jacques very much. And yeah, let's see. But yeah, let me know. What do you think about Jacques? Man, I'm getting to your comments too slowly. You guys are awesome. Thank you for leaving such wonderful comments. I'm sorry that I'm going to miss a few of you. I'm just going through this too slowly. I'm trying to give each question its due. But yeah, if you're just getting here, this is Jack with Cosmic Road with a great group of people talking about UFOs, and David Grush and Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand and what's going on in the current state of UFO disclosure. And I'd love to know your thoughts. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. And if you want to support this live chat and keep it going, please consider leaving a super chat. DOD won't share non-human tech with humanity. Yeah, it's very likely. These other whistleblowers will make a difference. Who are they? Yeah, who are they? I shared one possible whistleblower that somebody was floating around. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But that's a great question, and hopefully we'll find out very soon. Who are these other UFO whistleblowers that Marco Rubio is talking about that have direct access to the UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program? Who are these guys? What are they going to reveal? Are they going to be presenting proof of their claims to Congress? Presumably, some of them, if not more, have already testified in closed door hearings. So Congress already has the proof that they have provided. Will Congress show any of this proof to us? That's kind of an important question. So, what do you guys think? Is Congress, because what excuse do they have, right? Honestly, what? It's not national security. That's BS. That's BS. Unless you count mass hysteria as national security, but you can't regulate people's actions. You got to tell them the truth, and what happens happens. What's the biggest, juiciest burger, a news burger out there to date? What's the biggest UFO news burger out there? Well, I mean, it's got to be the UFO whistleblowers, right? There is a UFO reverse engineering effort and crash retrieval effort that has been going on for many decades. And now credible people with high clearance, high access to this information and direct involvement is are coming forward. So I would say that's my takeaway. But let me know what you think. Little Socialism says, or it's not socialism. I'm missaying your name, aren't I? I apologize. It's Little Sklyism. Okay, well, let me know if I'm saying that right. Richard Dolan writing a book about the underwater stuff right now, and apparently it's a banger. Apparently, Richard Dolan has done so much research on that book about underwater UFOs that it has actually changed his understanding of UFOs. And I will be very, very interested to see what he says in that book. I'm really looking forward to it. I love Richard. He's one of my favorite UFO researchers. He does have a more nuts and bolts point of view than I do, but I love him. I think he's great. Let's see. Cable Guy says, I referred Linda Moulton Howe because she has that kind of evidence, that level and standard, the lowest level. Yeah. Well, Little Sklyism says, Howe is being manipulated indeed. Yeah. Snow Eater, they could also being using the water to refuel too. Yeah, there have been cases of UFOs coming to pools and lakes and sucking up water, and then sometimes spitting it back out. So they do seem to be using water for something. Is it fuel? Are they getting hydrogen from it? Are they drinking it? Is it? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. But they definitely have an interaction with water, even when they're not flying in it. Cable Guy says, I love her too. Just hoping they won't stop at Metamaterial by Avi and Spheres. Yeah, really. Cable Guy says, Grush promised altruistic stuff. Do you mean he's doing this altruistically? Yeah, because I totally believe he is. He is doing this because he believes this information should be out there. And I love it. I love it. Love Grush. We need more people that have the stones to come forward. But it does take stones because the control group is real. JD, hey JD, definitely the new whistleblowers will cement this into history. The debunkers are squirming like maggots in the boiling water. Love it. Yeah, squirm, maggot, squirm. DOD won't share. Yeah, DOD says, is the jury out on Bob Lazar testifying? Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. Will Bob Lazar testify to Congress? That would be amazing. I love it. I hope so. JD says Bob was always telling the truth all those years. Yeah, I think so. I think Bob is a truth teller. And I think that, I've already talked about Bob Lazar and how I think that his memory may have been tampered with. To the extent that his involvement is even greater than he knows, that he may have been interacting with beings there. He has one memory of that. So does he have others that have been wiped from him? Because that memory that Bob Lazar has of interacting with a being telepathically behind a curtain was a recovered memory that he got years later. So that indicates to me that had been at that time wiped from his mind. Bob Lazar was forced to drink a pine-scented drink and undergo hypnosis. I believe that somehow allowed wiping his mind easier, and that he didn't just have one interaction with beings at S4. He had multiple interactions, and they were all wiped from his mind, just like that one that he did recall. That's my take on Bob and his interactions at S4. But let me know your take in the comments below. Bob says Neil Young sings it best. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I love Neil Young. Cable Guy says we're referring to Greer to the Greer conference with his witnesses. Felt like some World Trade Fair to me. Salesman show on yeah. Well, Greer is kind of a car salesman in some ways. I mean, he really does have that shtick. But I think the witnesses that he brought forward were on the money. Well, I think that the last guy I don't know about. The last witness at the Greer's event, somebody has shown me some information that he's associated with this company that has done some shady stuff, including possibly misinformation. But I haven't corroborated that, so I don't want to say that one way or the other, really. But yeah. Anyway, but the other guys, I think, were telling their truths. I do. But that's just me. Let me know your thoughts on the Stephen Greer summit. So just ignore Greer, take Greer out of it, and just listen to what the witnesses said. That's what I tried to do. Neo Cal says newest weaponized was amazing. Yeah, it really was. It really was. I love Whitley Strieber. I've read several of his books. I watched his show a lot. Chumble says Magic Bullet Theory, Building 7. Don't forget, they're not going to relinquish their stranglehold. I actually got excited. Then I remember the things they already got away with. Yeah, really, really. Good point. Bob Marley, he's put it to Daniel Sheehan. Let's chillax and go with the flow. All right, I can do that. I'm chillaxed. Cable Guy, lots of love. Fire. Bob Marley, Eurythmics must be an angel. Bob Marley, respect from Ireland. Hey, Bob. Respect. I'm part Irish. George Sankey says, could the phenomena be a manifestation of the collective human unconscious? I've got a good friend that thinks that that's all it is. I think that may be part of it. I do. I totally believe that. John Keel believed the phenomenon was representative of some field that, our consciousnesses were interacting with, and it was manifesting in that way. So a similar kind of idea. I think that's very possible, at least in part. There is a physical component to this as well. I believe that, if you know what solipsism is, I think that's a little bit solipsistic, thinking that it's all us. There's nothing outside of humanity that we're doing at all, knowingly or unknowingly. So I don't think that. I think there are outside forces, and that they are interacting with us. But I do think the collective unconsciousness probably does play a part. So I think that is a great point. Let's see. A little scleosm. I know I'm butchering your name. Why can't they be puppy beings instead of mantis beings, right? Love it. I love it. Chumble says, digging this format, know what might be fun? Go out in the streets and ask random people to explain what a light year is. Right. I love it. Xavier has some clarification. He says, the mile-long craft is being presented by Richard Griffiths, the speaker at the University of Hawaii, Hilo Physics and Astronomy, member of SCU Alejandro Rojas. Alejandro Rojas will also be speaking. Cool, man. Thank you for telling me about that. I can't wait to check that out. Does anybody have any information on the thing that might drop about our understanding of physics? Apparently on the 29th, there's going to be something that's going to drop that may change our understanding of physics. And the way it was teased is it has something to do with UFOs. So let me know what you think that could all be about. And that could be a big nothing burger. We'll see. Big claims, right? There's always big claims coming up. Every week there's, something, but sometimes you get, it's not a nothing burger, but sometimes you get a David Grush burger. So, some of these claims have merit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that means. And if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know your thoughts in the chat. Or if you're watching this later, in the comments below. And if you wanted to support this channel and keep these live streams going, please consider leaving a super chat. That really encourages me and motivates me to keep going. All right, I'm reading comments now. Y'all guys have such great comments. Now, I don't want to miss any, but I know that I must be missing some. It keeps on skipping on me. Jumble says, you realize every time you mince Greer, I plunge a fork into my thigh. Stop it. Hey, man, I sympathize. I sympathize. Life would be so much easier if I could just ignore Greer. It really would. If I could just discount everything associated with Greer in my life, it would be so much simpler and less stress-free, and without toxicity. But the man has his uses, and he has done some good. The UFO summit that he just put together. I don't know what's on the 5 or 8 terabytes of information that he apparently has compiled and released to whatever appropriate parties he has released them. As far as I know, that's not publicly available. I assume there's at least some juicy stuff in there. And, in order for that to have an impact, it really does need to become publicly available, at least some of it. He has also popularized CE5. And I hate to say anything good about Stephen Greer. I really do, because I want to plunge a fork into my thigh too. It makes me grind my teeth. He just drives me nuts, spreading toxicity and disinformation among the UFO community and his huge inflated ego. An alien apologist. But he's done some good. So I try to look at Greer in a nuanced way, looking at the good that he's done as well as the bad. But I hear you, man. I hear you. JD says, George, that's what Tom said. I guess I'm behind in the conversation. Let me know the person with the avatar of the lightning strike. What may I call you? There's no name attached to it. So if you could let me know your name, I'll try to remember it. He says, or she says, I've seen on multiple occasions an aquatic looking all blue humanoid being with full human illusion capabilities. Well, that's very interesting. There are blue beings. The Arcturians are said to be blue beings, these elegant blue beings. And there are apparently other blue beings as well. And so I would love to hear more about your experiences. And when you say full illusion capabilities, it's a full human illusion. So it was a blue being, but it was appearing as a human. I think that's what I'm getting. Yeah, they definitely can change shape, or at least present to you the image they want you to see. Absolutely, 100%. Edward says pulsar gravitational waves. Okay. I don't know what that's in reference to. Maybe how they fly or something. Oh, yeah. A lightning strike. I'm just going to call you lightning strike until I have a name for you. I'm sorry. They dropped the illusion a couple of times. Okay. Makes sense. Xavier says the mile-long craft. Oh, yeah. We already talked about that. That is awesome. I can't wait to see that presentation. Xavier says link to the event in their conference itinerary. Okay. And if y'all are curious about that, that is the speaker is Richard Griffiths at the University of Hawaii, Hilo, Physics and Astronomy, member SCU. So look that up. And apparently, according to Xavier, there's going to be a mile-wide UFO presented, at least in pictures, in that conference. So I can't wait to see what they've got up their sleeve. That's amazing. Edward says probing feels out of this world. No comment. Xavier Anomalous Aerospace Phenomena Conference. Okay, that's the name of the conference. Excellent. Hosted by SCU. Open Arc. Xavier, I'm going to keep my eye open. Yeah, me too. Jonathan says Lockheed has it. Yeah, Lockheed's got some stuff. Lockheed has been in this game for a long time. They helped build Area 51. Yeah, they got stuff. Yeah, they do. 100%. Snow Eater says Martinez Lockheed built the TR-38. Ben Rich was the team lead. Yeah, yeah, I mean, Ben Rich alluded openly to us having a technology that could take ET home. So yeah, yeah, absolutely 100%. Skunkworks has been in on this since day one. Alexander Spina says, just found you a few weeks ago. Not really into the stuff, but caught the Grush story and went down the rabbit hole. Great channel, dude. Thank you. Subscribe right away. Thank you so much, Alexander. I appreciate that, and welcome aboard. David Wartsky says Richard Dolan is a research maniac. Absolutely, love Richard Dolan. Always produces the receipts. That's right, he does. UFO Arc, what's your opinion of Preston Dennett? He seems really knowledgeable and down to earth. I love Preston Dennett. He's great. I watch his shows all the time. He's one of the best researchers. Yeah, he's got some wonderful videos with some really amazing information. I have referenced his videos a lot in my own videos. Sometimes to refute a point that somebody like Sean Kirkpatrick will make, like in the U.A.P. report that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick released, he said there were no collisions with UFOs. Well, just like a couple of weeks before the U.A.P. report, Preston Dennett, totally unrelated, came out with a video compiling a list of collisions between human vehicles, trains, planes, and automobiles colliding with UFOs. So I was able to use that to refute Sean Kirkpatrick's lies about there being no collisions. Of course, there's collisions. There's crashes. There's going to be collisions. Come on. But he's that's Kirkpatrick. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Preston Dennett. I'm on the fence about Dolly. I think Dolly is pretty amazing. If she is legit, she is just a phenomenon. Because Dolly Saffron, the experiencer that Preston Dennett works with, and has written a book about and they co-hosted the show together through the Light Gate or something like that. But she is a conscious experiencer, somebody who, when she is abducted or taken, contacted, her mind is not wiped, and that is so unusual. It's just makes me doubt her a little bit. But she's very detailed. She's very intelligent. And she has answers to a lot of questions, like why UFOs crash. According to her, it's because of the Earth's unstable electromagnetic field, and these things are surfing on the electromagnetic waves of the Earth. That's, their anti-grav. That's how they work, according to Dolly, my understanding of what Dolly says. And sometimes the unstable field causes them to crash. So I don't know if that's the case or not, but Dolly is really knowledgeable, very, very intelligent. And if she's on the level, she's because she talks about being on UFOs where there's a bunch of, Anubis beings, the Greek god Anubis, the jackal god of death. Or she'll be on a UFO where there's a bunch of Anunnaki. Some fantastic stories, right? That seemed so fantastic, it's hard to believe. And yet, Preston Dennett, a very credible researcher, believes in her. And I would love to see some corroborative evidence for Dolly. Like with a lot of the experiencers, there's corroborative evidence. Whitley Strieber has witnesses that can verify a lot of what he went through, even out of body stuff. So I'm not familiar with corroborative evidence for Dolly, but I would love to see that. If you guys are familiar with it, let me know, because if that's true, then it also might be true that there's a ship full of Anunnaki and another ship full of Anubis beings running around out there, and that these gods, or what we perceive as gods, are possibly playing a part in the unfolding drama that we're seeing before us. That's just crazy. Or at least spectators. So, but yeah, I love Preston in it. Snow Eater says David Dolan sometimes self-censors and it gets frustrating, but he is excellent always. Man, okay, just skipped again. I've lost some some of you guys. Devil Kazuya says, I love that name. It's funny how science fiction is getting so close to the truth in some instances, like the truth is trying to come out one way or another. Yeah, man, and it's coming out. It is coming out. If you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road talking about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media. And if you are so moved to support this channel in these live streams, please consider leaving a super chat. It keeps me motivated to keep doing this. Chumble says, thanks for your firsthand testimony. Very compelling. You happen to bring a spaceship. Yeah, yeah. Are you talking about who was it? Lightning strike that saw the blue beams? Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let's see. George Sanqui says, what if the phenomena is a manifestation of the evolution power of the human mind to not just include experiential aspects, but beings forth physically? I think I got the gist of that. Yeah, I think that some part of that might be very true. That we are, it is my understanding and from my own experiences, as well as researching this a lot, that we co-create a lot of these experiences. My experiences was definitely related to my consciousness. And it was reflecting stuff that was going on in my consciousness, maybe even answering some questions that I had. So we definitely co-create this. I wish I had more answers for you. That's why we need disclosure, man. We need some answers to this stuff. What is the nature of the phenomenon? What is the nature of reality? Because that's kind of where it goes, right? Other dimensions, spirituality, metaphysics. What is the nature of reality? Are we living in a simulation, or is this a created reality that we enter into as souls to experience for whatever reason? Yeah, great questions. Great questions. Love it. Snow Eater says, if you get to the deepest depths of the rabbit hole of the phenomenon, it would lead you to astral projection. Yeah, man, I am trying to have an astral projection. I'm trying it really half-assedly, honestly. I'm kind of like looking for a nudge. I'm hoping that some beings will take pity on me, some goodly beings with the highest vibration, to say, hey, Jack, we see you want to go party in the astral realms. I'll unzip you. That's what Whitley Strieber says they do to him as they unzip him. That's his own phrase. He says he can't have an astral out-of-body experience himself. They have to come and get him and assist him in that. And I think I may be remedial and I may need the assistance. So, that's and I've had some really good luck. Just my guides or whoever helping me out. I've had some fantastic experiences, so I'm hoping they'll kick it up a notch, and we can have an out of body. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. So, but that may have made me lazy. I may be spoiled and lazy. And that's getting into my own experiences, my own drama. UFO arc, the Higgs boson particle turns light into physical substance. Maybe there is a particle that turns conscious thoughts into physical substance. I love it. Michael Crichton wrote a book about that. Sphere. If you read Sphere, I know that's kind of spoilers for Sphere. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it goes there. It definitely touches on that. And that's a big part of that novel. I think that's probably his best book. Love Michael Crichton. Love Sphere. Jurassic Park, also an excellent book. Alexander says the June 29th thing is supposed to be something about gravitational waves. Okay, so that was the gravitational wave comment. Okay, fascinating. So is that going to advance our understanding of gravity? Man, wouldn't that be amazing? If the mainstream public could have access to anti-grav technology. Whoa. What a new world that would be. Yeah, where's my flying car? Or a jetpack. I mean, I guess you wouldn't even need a jetpack. You could just strap on some anti-grav boots. Love it. I hope that happens. Of course, if there's a bunch of flying cars out there, man, I hope we've got some like force shields, to protect us from the bad drivers, because that's going to get dodgy. That's going to get dodgy. But I do want a flying car. So, Cable Guy says, although I haven't been able to do it naturally, his method. Okay, talking about out of body. Preston Dennett. Yes. Okay. Yeah. He has out of body experiences. And did he actually write a book on that? Cool. Cool. I've heard him talk about that several times. And I think I've even communicated with him in a chat about that. And he was recommending a certain technique. The technique that I'm familiar with is the one where you get 6 hours of sleep and you wake yourself up. You go to a different room and you sit up in a chair where you're slightly leaning back, and you try to get your body to go to sleep while your mind is awake. And you have to do that committedly every day for potentially months before it works. And I haven't been willing to disturb my sleep every day for months to do that. So maybe I should. Maybe I should just commit to that. But I do like a good night's sleep. So, but let me know, what is Preston's technique? I forget what his technique is. Is it where you're trying to like visualize yourself rocking out of your body or pulling the rope, that kind of thing? Because I haven't been able to do that yet. I have tried that. Yeah, let's see. Cable says, UFO Arc says we should collective research something for Jack to organize into a sensible show. Unlike my regular show. Thanks. I'll take it, man. Yeah, if you could do some research, that'd be great. I will accept all help. David, positive vibrations, not inviting any negative vibrations. But Cable Guy says, interesting thought. I've been thinking a lot of substance, not form. Don't know what it means. Okay, I would like for you to expound on that. I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Family Fulkerson says, hey, family, there is speculation that gravitational waves could be used to detect warp signatures. Okay, so that may be an application of this new technology or physics or understanding. I love it. We could detect the beings' ships potentially with this technology. I love it. It's great. Alexander says, "Oh wow, oh man, I lost you. Where'd you go? There's just so many great comments. Now let's see. Yeah, shoot, yeah. There are some YouTubers, when they do a live stream, they will only answer questions from super chatters. I obviously, I'm not going to do that, but I can see why they do it, because there's so many questions. I don't want to miss any. And, it gives you a way to prioritize them so that, you get to at least those. But consider leaving it to super chat if you want to support this in future live streams. But thank you guys for thinking of how to support the channel and in other ways than super chats, with research and other things. I really appreciate that. Family says, guys, who are the people involved with this upcoming miles wide UFO story? Yeah. Xavier was just explaining that. And I'm not going to go back and lose you guys' comments again to find that for you. But yeah. Cable Guy, I've been thinking a lot about the statement substance, not form, but I don't know why or what it means. Sorry, sometimes I talk in my head too much. Yeah, well, me too. But thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'd love to know more about that. Family says, Cable Guy reminds me of the quantum state. Accurate to say it exists, but its form is undefined before measured. Cable Guy at Preston Dennett. Okay, I've lost you again, man. There's so many great comments. Shoot, where'd he go? Where was I? There's so many great comments. Let's see. We're coming up on 2 hours. I'm probably going to call it a day soon. But thank you guys. Let me see if I can finish your comments, and then I'll let you go. Now let's see. Well, let's see. Yeah, the substance and form. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, if you're just joining us, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. And let me know your thoughts either in the chat or in the comments below. And like I've said, if you want to support this live stream and future live streams, please consider leaving a super chat. It definitely keeps me motivated. All you lucky people says, Jack, do you think we will ever see the full long form 7-hour News Nation interview with David Grush? Well, that would be amazing. I think they're going to probably release some more nuggets from it. I don't know. Was there a 7-hour interview? Are you? I want to get that correct. Are you conflating the News Nation interview with the Senate or the House testimony? Because he did do some long interviews there that were hours long. I wasn't aware that he gave such a long interview with News Nation. I guess I knew he gave a longer interview than we saw, but I wasn't aware that it was 7 hours. But whether it's 7 hours or an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours, definitely there's more material in that interview, and I would love to see it. So I hope they do release more information. Hey, Dax, what's going on? What's up? Yeah, that's Baxter. Live stream photobomb from Baxter. Hey, Dax. Good cat. Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Chumble says, "Hey Jack, tell the audience how many sides the pyramids have. Dare you? 8? Is that right? Because each side has the little, under the Great Pyramid. Each face. Well, okay, so it's got the 8 faces going around, then it's got the bottom. So 9, I guess, technically, if that's right. Because each of the triangle faces has this little vertical face, a little vertical line through it that actually separates those faces, those triangular faces, into 2 separate facets. So technically, each of those triangles is actually 2 facets. So I guess my answer would be 9 sides for the Great Pyramid, at least in its current, or at least in its completed form with the capstone. Family Fulkerson says, I think a cable guy says, wow, got all goosebumps there. Family Fulkerson, thanks. Okay. Yeah. Family says, cable guy reminds me of the quantum state. Yeah. And then he says, when you mess with serotonin, among others, you're going to feel realities that are artificial. It's why under lab conditions, the experience match the participants' beliefs. Okay. With serotonin, injecting serotonin, I'm not familiar with that experiment. Let's see. All you lucky people, Jack, do you think we will ever see the long form interview? Yeah, I just talked about that. Cable guy really feels like the Asian mythical story Journey into the West. I think I've seen that movie. I forgot the story. Family says, all you lucky people, turns out it's only an hour or more, as tons is repeat in dead air. Cable guy, specifically U.S. getting enlightenment, because out-of-body experiences sounds like intensive meditation process for Asians. Okay, all right. Family Fulkerson says max 3. UFO Arc says, sorry, I wasn't meaning your show wasn't sensible. Well, thank you. It may be at times. Your shows are awesome. I just meant lots of random research. We'll need skill to arrange. No, absolutely, you're right, and I appreciate that. And thank you very much for thinking of ways to help the channel. I really do appreciate that. All you lucky people says, I was thinking that Ross had said that they had interviewed him for some longer amount of time and that it was trimmed or cut down to an hour, about 40 minutes. Yeah, no, I think you're right. It was trimmed and there was some stuff cut out. I don't know what it was, what they talked about, if it was anything juicy. If it is, hopefully they'll release it in the days ahead. And Devil says the pyramid has no face because where is the nose and the mouth? I love a good dad joke. So thank you very much for wrapping this up for us through a devil. I love it. I love it. Okay, well, y'all guys are still going. Cable Guy says, that's deep, family. I'm still reading it, rereading it multiple times. Family says, they walked it back. In reality, we have 1 to 3 actually additional video. Okay, is that of David Grush? Additional video of David Grush? Well, I would love to see it. Um, Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up, but thank you guys so much for joining me. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you have too. And, don't, and join me next time. I need to make this a regular thing. I need to get on my, put on a different hat, take off my woo woo, willy nilly writer hat, and put on my professional hat. And have like a regular day and time when I do live streams. Absolutely 100%. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Had fun. Hope you have too. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And, join me on Facebook, on Twitter. There's links in the description. And if you want to support the channel, again, just hit like or subscribe, or consider leaving a super chat or super thanks. Or there's a PayPal link below. There's a link to my books. I'm an author. Feel free to buy my books. You might even enjoy them if you are a fan of science fiction and fantasy. Thank you, David. Thank you, all you lucky people. Everybody, give me thumbs up. And Cable Guy, awesome. Oh, from Malaysia. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Cable Guy from Malaysia. That's awesome. I have always wanted to visit Malaysia. My wife is Chinese, and I've been trying to get her to make a tour of that whole part of the world. And so maybe I can convince her to go to Malaysia someday. I would love to see it. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.